They need to. We need to see it as fans. We need to see that side by side action. I'm tired of the fighting and not really getting anywhere. I want to see them side by side. I wanted it to come down to a photo finish of Lewis DRSing it ahead of Max yesterday.
It ain't over till it's over. Hi everyone, welcome back to On the Chicane. We're here today to discuss everything that was the United States Grand Prix. It was at Circuit of the Americas in Texas, Austin. We came back after 2 years, having a break last year because of COVID. And this was a race that was very hyped up. I think there were a lot of expectations for this race. And yeah, it definitely delivered. I thought it was a great race. There was so much going on. And yeah, it was just brilliant.
100% it definitely delivered. I was hoping that it would, and I was like pleasantly surprised. So I think, yeah, that race was amazing. And I feel like 2021 has just given us great races. There's lots that we can kind of reference back to. And this was another one that I think people will be talking about for a very long time. I feel like next year, Miami is going to be the new Monaco. I feel like Miami's going to be Monaco for the young people, and seeing the kind of vibe that they had in America, like you saw the RVs, you saw that weird octopus thing with the fire and stuff like that. Like seeing all the weird stuff that they do in America and like how hype they get for it. I feel like next year is just going to be even 10 times more, and especially with Miami being Miami, because as well, Miami's a different vibe to Texas. Like Texas is deep south, redneck country, all that kind of stuff. They're very Republican. So I imagine a lot of the people that went to Formula One are like NASCAR watchers. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that kind of vibe of people. Whereas Miami's like more young, more hip hop, more beachy people, like all that kind of stuff. It's in Florida, so you're gonna have all the crazy party people. So I feel like it's gonna be a very exclusive event. Like think of Miami and all the new yachts and boats and shit. Like I feel like it's gonna be that kind of vibe. What do you feel like the feel was for the whole weekend? We had lots of celebrities that were there this weekend. How did you feel about seeing them on track? And what did you think of like the US fans? So how did you think the vibe was?
I mean, it was definitely that American vibe. I don't know. I feel like American fans just have like a distinct persona as a whole. And yeah, like there's always so many celebs at the US Grand Prix. It's one of the like biggest events, I suppose. It's one of the big ones on the calendar, isn't it? So
Mm.
yeah, it wasn't surprising to see so many celebrities there. Serena Williams
Yeah.
was there this time round. I don't know who she was a guest of this time, but I remember last time she was at a race, there's a few races ago, she was there as an Aston Martin guest. So
Mm.
I'm trying to figure out because I think Serena's been to a few races in the
She
past.
has now, yeah.
Is she like a big fan or something?
I don't know if she's a big fan. I think she actually does like Formula One. She's definitely a fan of Lewis. I think a lot of the celebs that kind of go
Everyone
there
loves Lewis,
are.
yeah.
I remember she called him her little brother last time.
Mm.
I think she was there. I want to say Monaco, but I can't quite remember which one it was this year. She was at one of the races earlier this year, I think.
I want to say
Um,
Hungary, but I can't remember. But yeah, she was there with Aston Martin,
she was
which
there.
weird.
And then, yeah, like this time we had Megan the Stallion, we had Ben Stiller, we had Logan Paul. So I feel like it was definitely like if you were there, you'd be celeb spotting, like who can I see? And I think that's part of the fun of F1 is like you there's the potential that you could see a couple of your like favorite celebs walking around, just having fun and enjoying their race, probably as guests, you know, like you said, of some of the teams, but maybe even just because they really like F1 and they want to be there.
Yeah.
I've seen a few people policing it on online, and I think that's a bit wrong. Like, regardless of if you're a long time fan or a brand new fan, everybody should be welcome at a circuit. Do you know what I mean? Like, celeb or not.
There's a lot of
So
gatekeeping
yeah,
F1 though, I feel like.
so much gatekeeping
So
in F1.
Yeah, people are just, I don't know, they just get on their high horse and have an opinion about everything. So one
Yeah,
thing that I don't like about being a part of like this fan group, like everyone just has to have an opinion on everything.
we say it as we make a whole YouTube channel dedicated to having an opinion.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, so like,
But
you know,
no. Do you know what? Like, I totally agree with you. I'm pulling you like, but it gets to the point where it's like no longer your opinion. You're pushing it onto other people. You're restricting other people, and there's definitely a hell of a lot of gatekeeping.
yeah.
We're just here to chat about our opinion and share them. You can agree, you can disagree. In fact, we love it when we do disagree because then maybe we learn something and we challenge each other. But I think sometimes it does get to the point where they're like, no, they shouldn't be there or they should be doing this. And I'm like, can't really say that.
It's
So
actually
yeah,
quite interesting you say that because we get a lot of shit in our Twitter DMs, don't we? Like the
yeah,
amount of people that come and like respond to our tweets and take it personally and start like acting up in our mention. Oh my God, it's insane. I don't understand what people's problem is. Just because we have an opinion that's different to yours doesn't mean that we're wrong or that you're wrong. Like it's just a
yeah.
difference of opinion. That's all it is. You can scroll past the tweet and just keep it moving. Like you don't
Do you
have
know
to.
how many times I'm scrolling past? I like see stuff that I disagree with all the time, and I just have to keep scrolling. So I'm just like, why would you have this opinion?
It's so
Yeah,
easy to do. It's easy to just
yeah,
keep scrolling. Why can't people do
yeah.
that? Like, I don't
No
understand
idea.
everyone has to jump into our DMs and be like, rah, rah, rah. Like, just piss off. I didn't ask you. I put up my opinion because I wanted to share it. You do not have to come into my DMs or my mentions with your shite. Okay?
Literally, just you just get blocked and deleted if you get too rude. So we'll happily do a bit of back and forth with you, but as soon as you guys get a bit rude,
That's the thing.
sorry.
Come at us with respect and we'll be happy to hear your opinion. We'll be happy to hear what you've got to say. You might even change our minds. But
Yeah,
if you come at us with an attitude and using certain words and acting as though we've just, I don't know, declared that Adolf Hitler was the best person in the world, I'm sorry, but you are going to get blocked. Like, we don't need that
literally.
negativity in our space. We've created this platform for, like, just to elevate women of color, people of color, and to show that we also have a voice. So listen to us or just keep it moving.
Literally, I'm with you. I'm there. Mariam knows I'm the one that's usually fighting everybody,
Yeah.
or blocking everybody. So I'm not here for it put that way. I'm not here for it. I'm not here for any rudeness.
No.
But I am here for the opinions and I am here for the good conversations that are coming about. So quali on Saturday, free practice 1, 2, and 3. So free practice was on Friday, 1 and 2, and then we had free practice 3 on Saturday. The main key things from practice to note was that Perez was killing it. He came top of the timesheets for FP2 and FP3, and the Mercedes were looking very strong at the very beginning of the weekend. I think Max had a few issues. In quali, Gasly had a few issues just after quali, something to do with his some sort of piece on the back of his car that they were fixing. I can't remember exactly which piece it was. But essentially, the Circuit of the Americas is a very, very bumpy track. And I think a few things were getting dislodged as they were going over the curbs. So generally, at the beginning of the weekend, it looked like Mercedes were super strong and the Red Bulls, only Checo was really challenging the Mercedes. But then the race, I think things changed a little bit. So just we knew from early in the weekend that Bottas also was going to have a engine penalty. So he was changing another piece on his engine the 6th time for the same engine, or like a new engine piece, which is a bit crazy, to be honest. I feel like there's a bit more of a story there that we're not really getting, about how many times Mercedes are having to change this engine, and specifically Bottas's engine. And then so we knew that he was gonna come wherever he came. He was gonna have to take a 5-place grid penalty. But still, I feel like qualifying was pretty good. Did you get a chance to kind of watch it, remember?
Yeah, no, quali was it was intense, to be honest. I mean, you had it was just the tightness between Max and Lewis. Like, obviously that's what everyone's eyes are on this season. So Q1 and Q2 pretty standard. I don't think anything surprising happened. And then you get to Q3 and it's just, I mean, track limits, first of all, that was a big thing for this track. Everyone kept exceeding the track limits and having their lap times deleted. So that was one thing. People were also getting in the way because of like just the track. And yeah, it got to a point where Hamilton, it was basically like, is Hamilton going to be able to pull out like all the stops and get the fastest lap time? And he did. He was on provisional pole, but we still had 6 minutes to go, and everyone was like raving about it in quali. And I was like, we've still got 6 minutes. Max can do whatever, and you know. And then Perez, I think, went ahead, and then Verstappen managed to pull it out literally at the last minute and get pole, which was annoying because he's now interfered with Mercedes' record of having got pole at Circuit of the Americas every time since 2012, which is when the circuit became the official track for the American Grand Prix. So yeah, I mean, that kind of set the tone a little bit for what to expect on Sunday. So Hamilton was due to start second, Verstappen first, and then Perez third.
I would have been really, like, we know this, I love Perez, but there was a moment, like you said, where Perez was like top, and like I said, he'd been top all weekend, and me and my mum actually watched the quali together, and she was just like, anybody but Verstappen, anybody but Verstappen, and I was like, yeah, like, I don't mind if Checo kind of like is ahead of Lewis. One, I feel like Lewis would have still been able to kind of get in front of him, but also it was just great to see, you know, him kind of really coming into his own.
Yeah.
Apparently this weekend he was also using a slightly different setup than what he's been using earlier in the year. So he's moving away from Max's standard base setup for Red Bull and kind of moving into his own setup. So maybe he's found ways to drive that he really likes and is able to kind of understand that to the point now that they can set up the car for him. So I feel like we're really seeing the fruits of that kind of during qualifying and during the race of Perez. But also, you know, just anybody else. There was a point where Gasly was kind of doing some really good lap times. And I thought that, you know, even he might kind of be quite far up. Leclerc was also pulling out some really good lap times and stuff. So I feel like there was people around just in general that were doing really well on Saturday, and some of the drivers were looking pretty good. But yeah, as Mariam said, we did end up with the two Red Bulls with Lewis in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone who's a Hamilton supporter was probably saying the same thing, like would rather Perez than Verstappen, but lo and behold, Max managed to get it. So yeah, the race on Sunday. So turn one at Circuit of the Americas, the elevation point is 133 meters. It's the highest elevation point on the track. It's a really wide corner, so there's a lot of scope for drivers to kind of not go into each other. You know, it's not like a tight corner where drivers are probably going to collide. And we actually did see a pretty clean start, I think. So Hamilton was on the inside, which kind of worked out in his favor. I mean, you saw Max start the race, go straight as he said he was going to, and then see that Hamilton was pulling up beside him, and then he tried to kind of move over to his left and Hamilton. But
Hamilton kind of ended up a little bit like near the pit entry line.
Yeah, and then he went over the pit entry line, I think.
Yeah, and then you know, I guess he took him over again afterwards, which was nice. So like kind of they were battling a little
Yeah,
bit
so
cleanly, which was
yeah,
good.
it was nice. It was a nice clean start. Aside from the incident with like Stroll at the back of the grid where he
Yeah,
like had
he was
contact.
shunted by Latifi, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
which unfortunately kind of affected his race. But for the most part, it was a very clean start from everyone.
Mm.
And then Hamilton got away into the lead, and everyone was kind of like, yes, this is what we need. Hamilton's like just, creating that gap. But then I don't know, do you think it was a pace issue that affected like Hamilton's, because their strategy calls were quite good, to be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, Verstappen tried the undercut twice. Mercedes didn't go for it twice. Which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I mean, they were pretty strong, and their strategy calls and their pit stops for once were actually really good. So
Definitely.
I think Mercedes kind of had it this weekend more so than they've done in the past. Um,
Hmm.
but still, it was just, I don't know. Red Bulls, they were the first to pit their drivers, weren't they? Like
Yeah.
Hamilton came in
I feel
after.
like Red Bull generally took charge.
Yeah.
Like they knew that all of their calls had to be not made on as a reaction to Mercedes. Like they had to kind
Yeah.
of lead the cause. So they pitted Max very, very early. He pitted on lap 11, where they said that those medium tires could go for about 15 laps. So he pitted essentially like 4 laps or so earlier than people were probably expecting him to do.
Yeah.
And that meant that people were like, well, if he pits early, what's going to happen with his tires when he goes on to the hards? Like, is he going to do the second stint and be able to kind of stretch that out a little bit longer? Because obviously, then if he pits the first time earlier and then he has to pit the second time earlier towards the end of the race, he's going to have to, be really massaging those tires to get them, keep them in good nick for when Hamilton then inevitably catches up to him at the end of the race and has fresher tires than him. So I think, as fans, we were all kind of watching and also trying to calculate. And with a two-stop race, there's a lot of room, right, for all of these variables to kind of come in and make a difference. And I think what happened was, in my opinion, Mercedes' strategy was spot on. I think it just didn't work for them because Red Bull's strategy was just a tiny little bit better, and it just worked in because of the package that they had. Max was able to have more time on the medium tires, more pace on the medium tires than Hamilton was in that kind of stint where Hamilton had the medium tires. His ones weren't as fast. And I don't know if that was also maybe something to do with the aero package. So Mercedes looked like they'd kind of raised their car to be in a similar position to the Red Bull car, but perhaps their car is not as suited to being raised as high. And they maybe didn't have as much downforce or whatever it was, and they weren't, making the corners as fast. Whatever the reason was, it seemed like the overall package of Red Bull this weekend was a little bit better suited for the track, and everything that was happening, they were able to maximize it. So yeah, I thought it was super interesting though, because we were just seeing both of these teams kind of playing out, and like I said, the reactions or lack of reaction. So Hamilton choosing to stay out on the tires for like an extra few laps rather than pitting immediately and trying to fend off Max's undercut. You kind of just let him go and do what he was doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I think usually between Red Bull and Mercedes, you always see like a act and react kind of situation, and it's always one or the other. Most of the time, it's Mercedes leading and then Red Bull just following suit. But this time, you're right. Like you said, Red Bull kind of took charge and made their own calls for once, which was quite refreshing to see, actually. And yeah, they just had it down to a T, to be honest. You can't really fault their strategy. They did what they needed to do. And yeah, as much as I think we both hate to admit it, we both did say Max drove really well yesterday.
Yeah.
So did Lewis. Like Lewis, I think yeah, I don't think you can fault either driver. They both did their best, and it was getting so good towards the end. But just before we like talk about how the race finished and whatever, one thing I do want to discuss is on the opening lap, the Ferraris and the
I
McLaren.
knew you were gonna say this.
Like, honestly, that was a battle that was so good yesterday. I loved
Yeah,
seeing just them. It was
the
so,
overhead shots of that were beautiful.
yeah, literally beautiful. I loved it so much. And I think I was even more like happy about it because of the fact that Ferraris were just doing what they needed to do, and the McLarens were kind of just not on the same pace, kind of, but still.
You know what? That made me realize that I'm more McLaren than Ferrari, because I was like, I really wanted like Norris and Ricardo. Like when Ricardo managed to get ahead of Leclerc, ahead of Sainz, and then like I was just like, I was I was on McLaren's side, and I was just like, damn, I didn't know I had this. I didn't know I had that preference. I feel like I'm fairly neutral when it comes to the midfield, right? I left McLaren behind many moons ago, but when that was happening, because you know how much I love like seeing Ricardo do well, and he's doing so well. He's driving so much better. Like since the second, since we've come back from the break, he's doing so much better. And then seeing him kind of like overtaking Sainz, and I rate Sainz very highly. So just seeing him being able to do that, and then him and Norris kind of tag teaming Sainz, and then Leclerc doing his thing. It was just such a great bit of racing.
Yeah, I think that and the best thing about it was the fact that again it was clean racing. It wasn't like dirty racing. It wasn't there was no like contact or anything. It was just good wheel to wheel action, which we love to see. And yeah, I'm sorry, but the Ferraris were just on fire yesterday.
Really
Their pace
well.
was so good. In fact, the whole weekend, to be honest. I was super impressed, and I'm very happy with Ferrari's performance at the moment. I think they're doing so well, and I feel like I'm finally getting my team back, and I'm so happy about it.
I feel like there was a moment where one of the Ferraris and one of the McLarens came into the pits at the same time. I can't think of who's Ferrari and who's McLaren. I know then then Leclerc kind of went off, and he was like not by himself, but you had the front three. You had you had Max and Lewis, then you had Perez kind of by himself, then you had Leclerc kind of by himself, and then you had the rest of the grid. So it was definitely interesting to see. Ferrari's package seems to have stepped up from the beginning of the year. So they've clearly had some upgrades and had some changes made. So yeah, I think you do have some stuff to be happy about. And it's really affected the championships, right? Like the championship points for Ferrari and McLaren are very close now.
They've been close for a while, but
yeah, but even close, I think there's only like 3 points in it now.
there was
Something
one point when they were
like
both
that.
parallel. I think it was over the summer break. They were both parallel or something.
Let me check. I'm checking.
Okay.
Yeah, 3.5 points. McLaren is ahead by 3.5 points. So
McLaren's ahead
still. That can make a really big difference. Like the fact that both Ferraris were really good yesterday. That can make a really big difference in the championships, because if they continue to do well, then we could see.
I thought they were ahead already. What?
No. You've got Mercedes then Red Bull. So Mercedes is on 460.5 points. Red Bull is 437.5, and then a little bit of the way down is then McLaren on 254, and then Ferrari on 250.5. So still, 5 more races to go. If you want Ferrari to do it, they can do it. They might be able to do it, but yeah. I think yesterday was a good at a race for Ferrari, but commiserations if you are a McLaren fan, specifically a Lando fan. I know he was really hard on himself for coming eighth, I think, in the end.
Yeah,
He
I don't
was
really know what
super.
happened with his race. I mean, they weren't really focused on those drivers because obviously what was going on at the front. But yeah, he just seemed to, even in that little fight, it was Ricardo who was like dominating for the McLaren.
Yeah.
And Norris, you did see him drop back a bit. So I don't really know what was going on with his car yesterday, but poor kid.
And he really beats himself up about it. I feel like a lot of people don't get his humor because he's quite nonchalant or he's self-deprecating, and he also kind of says the wrong thing a lot of the time. To be honest, like
Yeah.
he'll be very dry humor. But I kind of get it. I think he's just an overcritical kid. He's 21 years old, and he's doing this massive thing, and he wants to be amazing. And he's really good. Like he's been third, I'm going to say, in the championships until this weekend. Perez has just taken over him, now he's fourth again. But like he's ahead of people like Bottas and other people that you would expect just because of their history in the sport to be ahead of him. So like he's been doing really well, and I think people are quite hard on him for his media personalities side of things, but on the track he lays it down. And I think this weekend he just disappointed himself more than disappointing us, and he was really hard on himself. But I wouldn't say it was the best drive for him. Like you said, Ricardo was better. I feel like he'll pull it back though.
Yeah, I think he can. I mean, we've just got to see how the rest of the season kind of pans out, right? There's only what, 5 races left.
Yeah.
This is the thing with the drivers, they've got to keep like their mentality is a big part of how they drive. And Lewis has said this so many times, but they really have to be mentally strong, because if you let things like yesterday get you down, and it's one of the issues that you see with like Lance Stroll, like when he has a bad race, you can see that he kind of goes within, like goes
Retreat.
into himself, yeah,
Yeah.
and it affects his future performances. Whereas if you are able to just take a race as it is and be like, okay, fine, do you know what? That wasn't great, but I'm focused. I'm going to try again. This is what I can do next time. That's the kind of mentality that these drivers have to have. And it's so important. So, as much as their physical strength is obviously a really big part of like them being as good as they are, their mental strength as well has to really keep them going, because otherwise you can just beat yourself up. So
I think surprisingly, on that note, you just kind of reminded me, Lewis has obviously openly worked on his mental health for a very long time. So he's clearly doing amazingly on that front. But Max, this is his first year challenging for a championship. I don't know if he's, really amazing in his mental health or badly in his mental health, but he's definitely not allowing it to get to him visibly. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, other than there's been a couple of times when he's been really angry. So after Silverstone, for example, he did call Lewis an idiot during one of the free practices this weekend.
and
There's a couple of times where you see it kind of bubbling up underneath, but I feel like that's natural frustration, regardless of all the craziness that happened around like Silverstone and all the dramas and things around Monza as well. But generally, other than those few points, he has maintained a certain level of cool and calm, and that has kind of reflected on the track. For example, yesterday, he had Lewis breathing down his neck for so many laps, and he did maintain his cool. And a lot of people, we've seen it happen so many times, have fumbled under that kind of pressure and made really serious mistakes. I think earlier this year, Vettel was being followed by Lewis and spun out, and he's a four-time world champion. He's really, really good. So I feel like kudos to Max. This is a really Max happy video. I don't like that. We're gonna somehow edit this down so it looks less praising Max, but credit where credit is due. He has maintained a lot of cool this year.
yeah.
Don't say anything. I'll do the praising so that at least one of us can be like, no.
Yeah. Whatever, Paris. Moving swiftly on. Who else can we talk about? Who do you think?
I would.
Oh, I want to touch on Alonso.
You took the words out of my mouth. You literally took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, let's talk about Alonso. What do you think
Yeah.
about his race yesterday?
Oh God. I feel like, regardless of if he was in the wrong or not, like there was definitely a couple of times where he wasn't in the wrong. Giovinazzi was doing some weird shit as well. However, I believe that Alonso is some kind of weird F1 kamikaze. Like he is trying to push a lot of buttons. For what reason, I do not know. I don't know why he's got it in his head. Like, I'm going to challenge every single rule that there is in F1 by doing dodgy shit on the track. Between him and Raikkonen,
Yeah.
I feel like I saw a meme of like two old men fencing, like that with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
things. And I saw it, and it's like they put Alonso and Raikkonen over it, and I was like, yeah, that's literally it. It's just like these two old men fighting over stuff, and Alonso's trying to piss off the stewards at the same time. And I don't get it. Just race clean, guys. Like if you're gonna race and you're gonna race hard, do that. But there was a couple of taps between Raikkonen and who did he crash into a little bit? I'm trying to think. Oh, Alonso. It was Alonso. Alonso and Raikkonen had contact, and there was like debris flying off the car. And I was just thinking, guys, come on.
Makes you think of that. You know that radio message where the Alpine engineer got onto the FIA radio with Michael Massey and was like, so it's okay to do this? And Michael Massey was like, no. He's like, but Raikkonen just did it. It's not okay to do it. But Raikkonen just did it. It's not okay for any driver to do this. But Raikkonen just did it. Was literally I love how Michael Massey handled that situation. It's brilliant. That was like the best.
Michael Sassy. He was on it.
Yeah.
Or shall we say not on it? He was just like, what the hell? Even the fact that the Alpine technical guy was kind of being his own version of sassy as well. Like there was a lot of sass on the FIA radio. I'm here for it, to be honest. But I mean, on the one hand, Alonso calls out a good point. Your rules are stupid. How can I challenge them? How can I show you that they're stupid? But at the same time, I don't know, I feel like it grinds my gears a little bit that he's being so blatantly flagrant. Like he just does it to be an asshole a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe I'd like it if somebody else was doing it, but maybe I just don't like Alonso that much.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was just about to say, since he's come back, I'm just not an Alonso fan. I used to like him. I didn't really have any problems with him, but I'm not a fan of him being back in the sport. And I've said this from the very get-go. I don't think Alonso should be back in F1. And so far, I mean, yeah, I'm not really convinced otherwise. Like he's had some great drives this year, don't get me wrong. He is a really skilled driver, but I just don't think he really needs to be here. And yeah, he was just causing chaos on the grid yesterday, all for what? Because he ended up bloody retiring. So
yeah.
I don't know. It was just a weird situation.
Let us know what you think about that situation. What do you think about Alonso being on the grid? What do you think about the way he's been challenging the stewards? What do you think about his racing style kind of like causing a bit of havoc? What do you think about Raikkonen causing a bit of havoc back? Because I feel like there's a lot to unpack there. And I'd love to know everybody's thoughts on that one.
Yeah.
Speaking of Raikkonen and the Alphas, though, quick touch on Giovinazzi. He did a bit of racing yesterday. He was pretty pissed off. I don't think I've ever heard him pissed off on the radio before because of Alonso, actually. And there was a couple of issues with him overtaking Alonso, having to give the place back, Alonso overtaking him, having to give the place back. So there was a little bit of a fun moment there. But I feel like since Bottas was announced, I feel like Giovinazzi realised that his seat's not a permanent seat that he can just have forever, and he's actually started driving. We've heard his name so much more since the summer break.
Yeah, he has been really good, to be fair. He's stepped it up this second half of the season for sure. And it's quite nice to see, because even yesterday, like, he was really giving Vettel a run for his money and like fending off Seb for so long, and then Seb eventually managed to gain 11th position, like 11th from him. But yeah, I think you're right. Giovinazzi is kind of like, I think he's kind of got a bit more of a, what's the word? I don't know, but he just knows that he's got to go get it, basically.
Yeah, had a kick up his bum.
Yeah.
Other retirees. So we had Alonso and Ocon, both Alpines were out.
And Gasly was the first to retire of all the DNFs, which made me really sad, because, you know, I love Pierre. But it is what it is.
It is what it is. On the other hand, Tsunoda kept his nose super clean. Managed to just kind of fly under the radar a little bit, collect a little couple of points. I think he came home in 9th, I want to say.
Yeah, he did, because Seb said if he had a few more laps, he would have been able to chase him down and probably take 9th from him, but he didn't.
I think everybody was wishing that there were a few more laps of the race, weren't they?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so the last few laps of the race, obviously, as we said, this was a 2-stopper, and Lewis had to pit again, get onto a second set of hards, and he came out 7 seconds behind Max, with about, I don't know how many laps to go.
I don't remember.
I can tell you. Hold on. No, I can't tell you because I didn't write that down. Well, he came out with a few laps to go, and he had to chase Max down, and it was a literal fight to the finish. I feel like they both had to be absolutely perfect on those last laps, because, you know, if one of them had made a mistake, it would have just been all over. And what they were saying is that you needed to be 1.3 seconds faster than the other car in order to overtake. So as well as catching up to Max, he also needs to be slightly faster than Max, which he was on 8-lap fresher tyres, so he should have been. But in the end, he kind of fell short a little bit, simply because Mick Schumacher managed. So Max was approaching the back markers and was coming up to Mick Schumacher, and that allowed Max to get DRS. And Lewis was just out of DRS range to get into the DRS to catch him up. He missed out twice on DRS by absolute milliseconds, and then literally couldn't overtake him. And Max won. Max maintained it.
Because of DRS. So that's the thing. If it weren't for Mick, you know, God bless you, Mick, we love you. But if it weren't for Mick being there, then it would have just been clean air in front of Max. And I think Lewis was literally getting closer. Like, I was looking at the timesheets and seeing it was going from like 1.6 to like 1.4 to 1.3 to, I think even at one point he was down to like less than a second.
He was less than a second. He just wasn't less than a second at a DRS
section zone, which exactly.
Was so frustrating.
When it got to the whole DRS zone, like, it was just bad timing, really. And that's the thing. Like, I think that's why we all wish that there were more laps, because I think Lewis could have, given the opportunity, I think Lewis could have taken it from him, or it would have been a really solid fight to see.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded seeing. Like, I do wish Lewis, when he had pitted, I wish he had pitted 2 laps earlier. There was about 2 laps before he actually pitted. He was going to come out ahead of Perez, and it would have just given him like a couple of extra laps to get closer. The deficit actually would have been slightly less. So he might have been, I think when he came out, he was 7.8 seconds, but like, let's say 2 laps ahead, he might have been like 6 point something seconds, 7 seconds. And I feel like I just wanted to see them side by side again. I really just want to see a little bit of actual side-by-side racing with both of their cars kind of evenly matched. I think the Red Bull was a little bit faster this weekend, but I reckon Mercedes will be able to pull it back for the next race.
Okay, so wait, you saying that you want to see them side by side. We've seen them side by side a few times this year, and
Yep.
each time it's resulted in something going wrong. Most of the time for Max, but would you really want to see that? Because I don't want anything to jeopardize Lewis's race.
No.
So
Think about lap one. I feel like Max has safely been put in his little box of you need to chill the hell out. Like, you cannot take these crazy risks that you've been taking. You're coming off worse for it. So I feel like he's been just pulled back the smidge enough and Lewis has been pushed forward enough where he's like, you know what? Like, hold on a second. If you're gonna get your elbows out, I can get my elbows out. And I feel like it could be some amazing race. And at the end of the day, they are literally at this moment in time, Lewis is the greatest driver of all times, but they are two of the best drivers in the world at the moment. So I feel like if they can't race side by side and one of them come out ahead of the other without the other one, then bloody hell, go on, keep crashing out, because then somebody else deserves to be the friggin' champion of the year. I don't care. We need to see it. As fans, we need to see that side-by-side action. I'm tired of the fighting and not really getting anywhere. I want to see them side by side. I wanted it to come down to a photo finish of Lewis DRSing it ahead of Max yesterday. That is what I wanted to see.
Well, with 5 races left this season, it really is feel like it's gonna be one of those seasons that really goes down to the wire. And we've not seen this in a very long time. So you might get your wish, because these two are reaching the point where they've literally got no choice because it's so close between them. I mean, 12 points now, but it's getting to that point where it's literally make or break for both of them. So like, let's say there's a race and I don't know, Lewis for some reason has a DNF, God forbid. But like that would put Max, and let's say Max wins that race, that would put Max so far ahead that it's almost getting to the point where if one of them does have a really bad race like that, it's not going to be redeemable. So I don't know, like it's just too intense for me, and I don't know if I can take it. Is basically what I'm saying.
Overall, there are still 130 points. So there's 5 races. That's 25 points a race, including fastest lap finishes. There's 130 points that the person can get. So if they win all 5 races, they'll get 130 points.
Yeah.
You get 7 points more each if one comes first and one comes second.
Yep.
There is still plenty.
Yeah, I know, but like
do this.
It's too much.
And look at the way Lewis has been driving. I feel like we just can't discount anything yet. Like, if 1 week Mercedes has a better car than Red Bull, Lewis is taking it so easily. And at the moment, you know, Max is doing his absolute best to kind of push himself forward and get himself up there for a championship. And he honestly might. But until that last checkered flag goes in Abu Dhabi, it is not over yet. That's all I'm saying.
It ain't over till it's over. Okay.
It ain't over till it's over. We got time. Okay.
Fine.
Let's wrap this up. So, who is your winner of the day?
Charles Leclerc.
Why?
Because he was just bloody great last weekend. Actually, you know what? No, I take that back. Well, Leclerc also. But Vettel came from 18th on the grid to 10th.
Okay.
Not bad. You know, he made the last point.
He was okay.
I was happy for him.
I like that it wasn't just a regular, like, obvious person. I don't know who to give it to. I literally have 3 people in my mind.
Yeah, I know. I know who one of your peeps is.
Who?
Perez.
Yeah. And then the other 2 are Max and Lewis. They kept us entertained. Entertained. I want to give it to Max because like I said, he fended off Lewis and he maintained his cool. I feel like he deserves my winner of the day for that. I want to give it to Lewis for the absolutely outstanding performance that he gives us week on week, and the way he fought back and the way he literally laid everything on the line to get himself to second. And I want to give it to Checo because man's literally said on live TV that he had diarrhea in the morning.
Wow.
And still managed to get into a race.
Do you know what? I think you should give it to Perez. We also had no water in that race, so give it to
no water. So okay, so that's my winners of the day. Loser of the day,
Alonso, just because he's jarring.
Yeah, that was a wild ride. The over 40s, you guys get my loser of the day. Alonso and Raikkonen were just doing some weird shit, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree with you on that one, and I am with you.
Yeah. So we come back not this weekend, but the weekend after in Mexico, which is going to be fun. I think Mexico is always quite a fun race. It's also the race that is quite, what's the word?
It's got a very high altitude.
Yeah. Yes. It's got the highest altitude of any track on the calendar, so it's very challenging for drivers, for cars, for teams. So the pressure is going to be on, and strategy wise, Mercedes can't screw it up. So yeah, it's getting to crunch time, and I'm very excited to see who comes out on top, basically. So let's see how it goes in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Like you just said, like the altitude is going to mess up the cars dramatically. I feel like that's going to have a lot of issues on the engines. It's going to be quite a lot of stress because obviously engines need oxygen in order to combust, and there's not going to be much oxygen. So I wonder how that's going to affect everything. And yeah, just the drivers, that's going to be a lot of pressure on them physically.
Yep.
So it's definitely going to be an interesting one, I think.
Yep. Can't wait.
In the meantime, where can everybody find us?
Yes, in the meantime, everyone can find us on Instagram and Twitter, and that's it. You can just follow us. You can share our content. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can tell your friends. You can tell your friends to tell their friends. You can come say hi. You can come say bye if you want to. And yeah, I mean, come find us. We're somewhere on social media.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, catch you next time. Thank you for watching.
Bye.